In our world today, there's no such thing as a safe chemical. How a chemical is used, stored, and disposed of is what keeps it from causing harm. We are surrounded by chemicals. We use chemicals in our food, water. We use chemicals in our homes and places of work. All this chemical use is in a bid to achieve a healthier and more prosperous society. But are we really moving towards achieving that goal, or are we slowly harming ourselves and our environment? Welcome to Our Environment, Our Future. My name is Ruth Benzu-Witola, and our focus on the program today is chemicals management. In 2016, the World Health Organization estimated that 164,000 deaths occur annually from unintentional poisoning caused by chemical exposure at home and in the workplace. Researchers worldwide have determined that everyday products containing chemicals produce more unstable organic compounds than cars in urban areas. A clear indication that the dangers of chemicals must be addressed. It is a fact that not all chemicals are bad. For instance, without natural chemicals such as hydrogen and oxygen, there would be no water. However, there is a need to recognize that most human-made chemicals, if improperly handled, have the ability to cause harm both to human health and the environment.
If you talk about chemicals, the Zambia Environmental Management Act provides for the sound management of pesticides and the industrial chemicals, which we refer to as toxic substances. So under pesticides, we have those that are used for the agricultural sector, like herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, and so forth. Then we also have pesticides that are used under public health. These ones you refer to as insecticides. For instance, the ones that we use for indoor residual spraying for malaria control. Those form part of pesticides. And you also have under the construction sector, those that you use to control termites. If you are building a house, the chemical that you use to treat the foundation of your building, that one is also referred to as a pesticide. When you come to industrial chemicals, we have chemicals like chlorine. We had a problem of cholera recently in Zambia, and the chemical that was used to control that was chlorine. Chlorine is part of a chemical that is controlled as an industrial chemical. You also have chemicals that go to the mining sector, like acids. For schools, we have chemicals like reagents and so forth. So these are part of the chemicals that we regulate under the Environmental Management Act.
In Zambia, agriculture is the largest user of chemicals, with over 60% of the population involved in the sector.
The agriculture sector is a sector that is being focused on by the government as a way of diversifying the economy. And as such, we've seen a lot of small-scale farmers coming on board because of the support that is coming from government. The e-voucher system, for instance, has brought the accessibility of the chemicals closer to the farmer by involving the middle people in the distribution chain, like the Agri Dealers. And as a result, you find that these chemicals are now in the hands of a number of players. So the increase in the number of farmers using chemicals is as a result of what the government policy is to try and focus on the agriculture sector. And previously, people used to use the traditional way of weeding, let's say, to remove the weeds from the fields. But because of the availability of chemicals, people are using now herbicides to weed the fields. This has encouraged a number of people to venture into agriculture sector because you don't need a lot of labor to clear your field. You can go in, spray, and your fields will be clean of weeds.
There is need for players in the agriculture sector to put in place proper chemical management systems.
Zambia Sugar PLC, based in Mazabuka, Southern Province, is the largest sugar producer in the country. With a total annual capacity of 450,000 tons of sugar, the facility is an example of sound chemicals management practices on a commercial level.
At Zambia Sugar, health, safety, environment is our #1 priority. We are committed to producing quality sugar, injury-free and without polluting the environment that we operate in. Zambia Sugar PLC undertakes environment, pollution and monitoring, sound practices and compliance with environment license permit conditions as regulated by the Zambia Environment Management Agency.
We use a range of chemicals from herbicides, fungicides and insecticides. There are very strict procedures here at Zambia Sugar. Chemicals, none of them are safe, even though some are green labels, which means they're safer, but we have to handle them in a certain way where we don't contaminate people and we don't contaminate groundwater and we don't kill the birds and the bees. So the strict procedure we follow. The man on my right here, this is how he's kitted out just for handling the chemicals in the store. He has plastic gloves, he wears a mask with a special filter and goggles, and he will have safety boots as well. So his job now is to make sure that this chemical store is kept very neat and tidy, and he follows a procedure. He will put certain chemicals in certain places. So any chemical with a red label goes into the red cupboard over there. Now those are highly toxic chemicals, and those are the ones we have to look after closely, very, very carefully. Most of the chemicals we operate with here would have what we call a blue or yellow label. And the label on the chemical will tell us what we need to do as far as health and safety is required. Even what we need to wear and how we need to apply it. And we follow those instructions very closely. And each operator should be well aware of when they're handling that chemical in the field, what he needs to do with that chemical. We stack them in certain places, so insecticides are stored away from herbicides. The more dangerous chemicals are stored away from the less dangerous chemicals, and we can only stack them to a certain height. So the plastic containers at the back there, those are blue label, they can only go too high, not more than that, because pressure and they might break. The boxes you can stack a little bit higher, but we can't go to 2 meters. And they should be stacked on pallets. We do audits every now and again, randomly. We come and select and do audits where we'll come in, we have a check sheet which we will follow and see if all those requirements of the check sheet are being met by the storeman or the guys applying in the field. The system we follow here at the moment in Zambia Sugar is a system called Farmers. On the board over there, there's a whole lot of requirements shown which educate people when they walk in and make sure that he's up to date with what's going on. When they've come back from the field after use, so they'll be empty, we collect them and we put them into a special store and they're locked away until we get to a certain number that makes it economically viable for them to be collected, but mostly by a contractor. Our environmental department looks after that.
We have two types of hazardous waste. One is waste that has value, like the used oils, that after generation we sell to recyclers. They come to buy it off us, then they recycle. Then the other type of waste that we have is waste without value. This waste is mostly chemical waste, expired chemicals and chemical residue from the laboratory. This one we also come and keep it under lock and key. As you may all know, we don't have any hazardous waste disposal site in Zambia. So when we have generated enough hazardous waste for shipments, we engage with ZEMA and licensed contractors who then assist us to ship this waste to South Africa, where we have well-engineered hazardous waste disposal sites. The empty chemical containers basically, mostly come from Agri. So when you go to the Agri area of sales, we have stores where we keep these chemical containers. And from there, we have a contractor who picks them up, a licensed contractor who picks them up to take them to Lusaka for triple rinsing. After triple rinsing, they bail them and then they send them for recycling.
Most large-scale agricultural establishments have the capacity and expertise to properly manage their chemicals. But what about the small-scale farmer?
The Zambia Environmental Management Agency, ZEMA, has been, continues to be concerned with the use of chemicals, particularly agricultural chemicals, among small-scale farmers. And to address that, we have entered into a partnership with Musika Development Initiative Zambia and CropLife Zambia. This intervention specifically was intended to build capacity among small-scale farmers as regards the safe use and handling of chemicals. So what we have been doing through this collaboration with Musika and CropLife Zambia is to train agrochemical dealers, to equip them with a basic knowledge on safe use, handling and disposal of agrochemicals. We believe that's an important point of intervention because individuals and small-scale farmers basically walk into these agrochemical dealer shops to buy chemicals that they are using at their small holdings. This is also in recognition of the fact that from our own statistics as a regulator, we have noted an increase in the use of agricultural chemicals in the country. And so it's important that the agrochemical dealer is equipped with that knowledge so that at the point of purchase, they are also able to pass on this knowledge to the person trying to buy chemicals.
The agro dealers have benefited from this program immensely. One, they are able to understand the various uses, but also how they can communicate such kind of information to the farmers. So they understand different types of agricultural chemicals, or as we call them, pesticides. So they are able to recommend accurately to the farmers. So now they're getting more business from the farmers because whatever they recommend now works. But also the farmers are also able to manage their pests very well, and their yields have increased. And from ZEMA's point of view, we have seen that slowly, we are not there yet, but slowly the farmers are taking care of the environment. They are able to dispose of empty pesticide containers in the right way. Previously, they just used to throw them around or just burn them, but now they are able to take care of them. They triple rinse, they puncture them so that no one else can use them, and then they store them for the agro dealer to come and pick them up and take them to the recycler or to a proper disposal site.
We have come up with what we call the 5 golden rules, just to make life easier for someone to follow. That when you handle chemicals, first one is be cautious, exercise caution at all times. Then don't have an accident, don't go for an overkill, use the minimum accepted rate. And the most important one is read the label. The instructions on the label will tell you how to use it correctly to give you the best results with the almost no negative effects on the environment or on your person. And then practicing good hygiene. After you handling your chemicals, after spraying, you need to take a shower, wash your protective clothing, keep yourself clean. And the other important one is wear appropriate protective clothing. If you are spraying, you probably have to wear the gloves and the face masks. If you are in a shop like I am today, maybe you just need the gloves if you are going to handle the bottles. But if you're on a table like me, maybe you just need the coat. And then the other one is take care of the spraying equipment. It shouldn't be leaking, shouldn't be cause an overspray. Let it apply how much you want to apply.
Chemical use, although more common, is not exclusive to agricultural practices. We all use chemicals in our backyards, to ward off mosquitoes from our homes, to get rid of cockroaches in our kitchens, or any other parasites. It is vital that we take precautions and use these chemicals properly in order to protect ourselves and our environment.
In a home, we use insecticides to control mosquitoes. Sometimes you can use it to control also cockroaches. Most of the time, people think that that product is safe. In actual fact, it has the same active ingredient which is used in the agriculture sector, like deltamethrin. So that deltamethrin's concentration in the insect killer is less, but the active ingredient is the same. So my advice is we should watch out on how we use it. I would also like to bring the aspect of when you use chemicals, there's a notion that after use you can drink milk and you are safe. That also is a myth. In fact, when you are using milk, what really happens is that milk has fat. So the chemical will bind to the fat, and the fat might be deposited into your body and there will be accumulation. And that's the reason why you have certain ailments like cancer showing up in your old age. You don't know why this problem and that problem. It's because of what we refer to as the chronic effect of the chemical itself, which means you are exposed to the chemical for a long time. But the poisoning is referred to as acute. You see the effect there and then. So I would emphasize that people should read the labels. We conducted a project, an exercise to understand how people interpret the labels. So what came out from there is that people associate danger with the color. Like I mentioned, there are about 4 colors: red, yellow, blue, and green. So red is associated with the highly hazardous chemicals. Then the level of hazard reduces as you go from red to yellow, then to blue and green. So people should understand that. Again, on the label, you have what we refer to as signal words. The signal words will show you, depending on the level of hazard, you have those that are referring to as very toxic, and then you have harmful, and then warning or caution. The globally harmonized system now refers to only 2 signal words, which is danger and warning. So people should look out for these 2 words. Where you have danger, then you need more protection. Where you have warning, you need to be aware of what other protection you need. So apart from just reading the label, individuals need to understand who regulates these chemicals. In case there is a product that is a counterfeit, how do you know the counterfeit products? So it's knowing how the label is and what elements are on the label. Usually you find that the label has the details of the supplier and the one who is actually distributing that product because most of these chemicals are not manufactured here, they are coming from outside. So for it to come into the country, there should be a company registered, company by PACRA to deal in that product. So if the person that is selling the product is not registered, then you have to worry. Apart from just reading the label, one has to know the type of personal protective equipment they're supposed to use. Because of the exposure routes I mentioned, like contact through the skin, inhalation through the nose, and sometimes you can swallow, because chemicals come in different forms, like in powder form. They are also in liquid or granules. So depending on the type, you can either be exposed through the skin or through inhalation. So you need to know the type of protection. And also the disposal part of it, when you use a chemical and maybe one spray requires only 10 mils, and yet you've bought 500 mils, what will happen to the 500 mils? Where do you place it? There is need to keep it under lock and key, and where children cannot access, because if children access, you have incidences of poisoning and so forth. So those are some of the things that you need, but above all, people need to know that there's a law in place that ensures the safe use of chemicals. So Zambia Environmental Management Agency has been mandated, and we are here to assist in sound management of chemicals.
Chemicals are not something to play with, especially agricultural chemicals, because they are built and made to kill something. Therefore, you need to be very, very careful how you handle it, where you store it, and how you use them. For example, if it says you need to wear gloves, you need to wear gloves. There's a reason the product will give you that information. Whether you need to wear a mask, whether you need to wear and cover your eyes. So chemical use is very important, and chemical handling even more important, because you can get very sick if you do the wrong thing. And the best advice I can give, read the label. The label is there for a reason. And the manufacturer has gone to a lot of trouble with research to put a lot of information on the label to tell you what to do. Don't take chemicals lightly. They can harm you.
We have to take steps to prevent chemical substances from becoming environmental and health hazards. Unless we develop and adopt better methods to ensure proper management of chemicals, we will be inviting health and environmental crises.
You have been watching Our Environment, Our Future. Thank you so much for being with us. From me, Ruth Venzu Witola, until next time, it's bye for now.